Ever since the Switch Lite was revealed to be coming out in September, everyone pointed out just how many games are coming out in that same month. And to be fair, there really were just so many games that came out in September 2019. But somehow, sneakily, under our very noses, another barrage was forming. Even more games preparing to release the following month, in October, which is officially the first full month of fall, as you can tell by my fall getup, as it were. It's also the month of my birthday, so you're welcome, because you get to benefit from my very own birthday wish of lots of games. So, let's celebrate by checking out the games that you can keep your eyes on and put your money aside for to be all prepared and junk. Let's talk about it. For some of these games, you'll recognize a particular theme that befits the release window. Ghostbusters Remastered kicks off the spoopy titles of the Halloween season. It's a remaster of the 2009 title Ghostbusters, the video game. Dear me, what a wonderfully original title. This game launched on basically all platforms, and you might think the game would suffer from its movie adaptation origins, but it actually was nominated for awards in just that field. And as most of the cast did their characters' voices in the games, and Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis even helped write the script. It's an action-adventure, kinda third-person shooter sorta game, but definitely has a flair and style of its own and is filled with all sorts of humor. This remaster of a beloved game will release on October 4th for $30. You may have been completely turned off the franchise by either playing or just hearing about Yooka Laylee when it was released back in 2017. The game was developed by Playtonic, a studio made up partly of old developers from Rare trying to rekindle the gameplay of Banjo-Kazooie in a market where 3D platformers are fewer and further between. But the game wasn't quite as well designed or finely tuned as we'd hoped for. However, they return with Yooka Laylee and the Impossible LAIR, a 2D platformer in the style of Donkey Kong Country. Preview material has come across much stronger than the first title, and so far seems to be very well enjoyed, even with the hesitation one would expect. In short, there's an isometric 3D overworld with puzzles to access new levels and many levels to traverse, most or all of which have different variants, such as regular, underwater, frozen, etc. And all of this is to collect damage boost for the Impossible LAIR, which is the final level. And similar to the Ganon fight in Breath of the Wild, it can be attempted right from the beginning, but will be close to impossible at that time. This game comes out October 8th for $30. I'm not going to spend very long on this one because it seemed to not really review particularly well when it came out last year on other platforms, but it's a spoopy game, so I'm throwing it in. Call of Cthulhu is a survival horror game in an obviously H.P. Lovecraft world, so even if it's not got the best mechanics, if it's something that you're into, it'll also be out on October 8th for $40. But if neither of those last two titles called out to you and you find yourself looking for something on the 8th, here's another one to throw into the ring. Developer Frozen Byte, who also developed Nine Parchments, another game on the Switch I've really enjoyed, has brought over their back catalog of Trine games and is releasing a bundle of all 4 games for $50 or just the brand new Trine 4 for $30. These games are single or multiplayer side-scrolling puzzle platformers with varied spells and abilities. Where I've said before the Nine Parchments shines especially well in the multiplayer, it appears that this series does an equally good job whether you're playing alone or with others. So this game comes out on October 8th for $30 for just Trine 4 or $50 for the full collection. Speaking though of playing with others, Killer Queen Black specifically is a multiplayer game and has received rave reviews all over the place. The game looks like pure chaos to the uninitiated, but also means that each playthrough feels fresh and new. Up to 4 players can join in on one Switch or 8 across 2 systems, and there are 3 different ways to win each match: a political victory, an economic victory, or snail victory. I don't know canonically what any of this means, but all I know is that this game is organized chaos that's perfect for local or online play and comes in at just $20 on October 11th or on sale for $17 if you pre-purchase. The following week, though, is really where the rubber hits the road, or a similar saying, but for video games. October 15th through 18th, there are 6 games coming to the Switch that are all must-buys for someone, so here's them. Starting on October 15th, we kick it off strong with Overwatch finally making its way over. This is the original and quintessential hero shooter that made huge waves in 2016 and is still very popular. Obviously, Activision Blizzard was happy with the performance of Diablo 3 last year, and even if that wasn't the sole reason Overwatch is coming over, I'm sure it was a contributing factor to put significant effort into it. We do know the game will play at 30 frames per second, which will surely be disappointing to some, but seeing as there's no crossplay, no one will be at a disadvantage over it, which is likely this more significant factor. Other than that, though, I don't have to tell you much about Overwatch, other than it's $40 and comes with 3 free months of Nintendo Online, as well as several free Legendary, Origin, and Epic hero skins and more. The second of the games on the 15th, and would likely be considered a more niche title, is a physical release of Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 Enhanced Edition Combo Pack for $50. These are absolute classic CRPGs that pull very heavily from Dungeons & Dragons. What's weird is this is specifically the physical release of the double pack of the 2 games, but apparently it was supposed to come out digitally on September 24th, which is 2 days ago, so I don't really know what happened to that. I can't seem to find that, but in any case, whatever. It's coming physically, so enjoy that. If these games are for you, you probably already know about them, but just wanted to remind you that they're coming out October 15th. But then the last game of the 15th is a much more modern take on a Western RPG. The Witcher 3 is many folks' favorite games of the generation, or some others of all time. Eiji Aonuma, when he worked on Breath of the Wild, apparently got some inspiration from the Witcher series, and many who loved one also love the other. The game is beautiful, even though it had to be pared down for the Switch, but the story beats are significantly darker and more mature than those of Breath of the Wild when considering their comparisons. I'll be very interested to see how this game performs with the Switch demographic, but I hope that it gets the love and admiration it has on all other platforms. The Witcher 3 comes along with all of its expansion packs at $60 on October 15th. The following day, however, brings us a bit of a palate cleanser after the dark and meaty journey we'll find in The Witcher. Little Town Hero, previously known as Town, was a huge mystery when it was revealed as a 2019 title by our friends at Game Freak. The scope, mechanics, and release window of the game were all interesting subjects, as we assumed they wouldn't want to compete with the release of Pokemon. But although the release window is so close to Pokemon Sword and Shield, the scope of the game is thankfully much smaller. I do wonder if this game was built as a test for the 3D engine Pokemon Sword and Shield worked on, but in any case, it looks cute, colorful, and hopefully very fun. The entire game takes place across one town that's being invaded by monsters. You recruit townspeople to help fight, and that combat is through what seems comparable to card-based battling. I don't have time to go into it here, but it seems similar to the attack and defense stats in card games such as Hearthstone, Magic, or other deck-building type games. There's still a number of questions on this title, but we do know it releases on October 16th for $25. Friday, October 18th brings us a little bit of early competition to the collectible monsters genre as Digimon Cyber Sleuth Complete Edition launches on the Switch. Ultimately, this is an RPG where you collect your Digimon and they'll fight other Digimon to help you progress through the story, all of which is somewhat similar to the Pokemon formula, but with Digimon instead. And the battle mechanics seem to be a bit closer to traditional JRPGs than they are to specifically Pokemon's combat. When this game launched on other platforms in the past, it received equivalent to a 7.5 out of 10 just about everywhere. So all things considered, this game may not be a masterpiece of a game, but is probably pretty much exactly what you're looking for if you like Digimon and JRPGs. It comes out on Switch October 18th for $50. And to round out that week is the one kind of game that is most likely to appeal to a whole different audience that would never even think about touching an RPG, but ironically would be playing one. Ring Fit Adventure needs little explanation, as you've surely seen the trailer, but the general gist is you're essentially playing a turn-based RPG with 100% linear overworld, but all being controlled by exercise by way of a Nintendo-branded Pilates ring. The primary game mode will have you run through an overworld, and as enemy encounters appear, you'll need to fight them by doing exercises, preferably ones they're weak to. All of this works together to give you a balanced exercise that you can turn up or down to tailor the difficulty to your needs. There are also mini games and regular old exercise modes, but those aren't really the reason for the game specifically. Ring Fit Adventure is only available physically, as you'll also need the equipment, and will retail at $80 altogether on October 18th. The week after that, there's more games coming out, but none that I'm really going to go into detail on about here. Cat Quest 2 will be coming out, so you can buy that. If you like Cat Quest 1, apparently it's pretty good, so check it out. But really what we're going to do is round out this list with 4 games coming out in the best week of the best month of the year, the last week of October. And it's the best week because, obviously, my birthday. Halloween. Oh, and my birthday. Starting off on October 29th, my birthday, we've got 2 more in the incredibly well-known spoopy franchise of Resident Evil. We'll see Resident Evil 5 and 6 both coming to the Switch. From everything I hear, Resident Evil 5 is decent and doubles down on the action-adventure elements that people loved from Resident Evil 4, but maybe in a way that took too much of the horror away. And Resident Evil 6 is unfortunately not very well loved or respected at all. From what I gather, this is essentially the game that jumped the shark. But even better is the fact that someone pointed out that the 6 in the logo just looks like a gross giraffe looking backwards. And now you'll never be able to unsee that. It's like the arrow in the FedEx logo, kind of like that. All things considered, I'm glad we're getting these titles to the Switch, but these are definitely ones that you can wait to go on sale, as Capcom is pretty good at doing sales fairly frequently. You can pick up these games digitally for $30 each or $60 as a physical bundle together on October 29th. The next and hopefully spoopier title is Vampire. This game released in June of 2018 on PC, PS4, and Xbox One, and also released to some mixed reception. With a Metacritic score average of 71, the game was praised for its atmosphere, style, and voice acting, and appreciated for its fresh new take on the vampire mythos, which is especially appreciated in a post-Twilight world. But where the game seemed to mostly suffer was its actual gameplay, and specifically its combat and sloppy mechanics. It also had some long loading screens and choppy performance on the consoles at times, so it makes you wonder on the Switch version. Nevertheless, it is a vampire game that was given a good window of time to be fixed up before release on the Switch, which will hopefully fix some issues and be a fun time. Vampire releases on October 29th for $50. And the last and probably spoopiest game to come out on October 29th. And the penultimate game of this list is
Super Monkey Ball Banana Blitz HD. Don't turn out the lights to play this game. You'll surely have nightmares for weeks.
But in all reality, this is not the Super Monkey Ball we all wanted, but it's the one we're getting. It was a Wii release with some annoying waggle mechanics, so it appears it should be fixed up to work with other control schemes as well, and we should hope so. It releases October 29th for $40, and just keep your eyes open to see how this remaster is received and in reviews a bit closer to launch. But finally, the ultimate spoopy franchise, and probably the reason you clicked on this video, on the last day of October, the day more traditionally known as Halloween, we're getting the long-awaited Luigi's Mansion 3. Somehow, Green Mario just keeps being gifted tremendous amounts of real estate, and after he saves one from a ghost infestation, he makes his way to yet another, so he's obviously supporting our economy quite a bit. But not only is this game finally coming out, but it appears to be expanding the game to a whole new scope. The first game was a blast, but was generally completed on a single playthrough in less than 8 hours or so. The game had so much character and atmosphere, though, that it still became a classic. Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon was very well loved, but it did cater to the handheld playstyle rather than the more long-form nature of its predecessor. Luckily, Luigi's Mansion 3 is bringing all of this together in a wonderful way. There are various floors to be explored, seemingly each with a theme and a particular boss, lots of secrets, and a whole bunch more. I want to say they said there would be 17 floors, I guess we'll see. There are also 2 multiplayer modes with a mix of competitive and cooperative gameplay. The whole campaign also has a built-in co-op with the addition of Gooigi, a more peppy and liquidy version of Green Mario. There appears to also be DLC coming out, which we talked about on last week's episode of our podcast Directly to You, which you can find a link in the description below. This game comes out on October 31st, Halloween itself, for $60 and will surely be wonderful. Like I said, there's a ton of games coming out in October, and it's a whole different kind of list than September had. really we're not being given any time at all to catch up on our backlogs. So, I mean, on the plus side, it gives a whole lot of options of games to put on our Christmas wish lists, something like that. But what do you think? What's one game that you will and one game you will not be picking up that's coming out in October? Let me know all that and more in the comment section down below. We'll pick out some of those comments, talk about them on our podcast this week like we do every week. There's a link down to that in the description below. It's called Directly to You. If you didn't know before, now you do. Also, while you're down there, go ahead and leave a like on the video and subscribe to fanatixfour for more videos like this every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. That's what you should do. It sure is. That's it for me, though. I'm out of here. See y'all later. Next time. Peace.